最后就点了拉菲，还有一个罗曼尼康帝，那个要20多万一瓶，那个我就没点，因为我觉得我们第一次见面也不要这样子消耗人家嘛。
The woman in front of us is Ms. Yang, who went on a date with a matchmaker at a high-end restaurant and ordered 30,000 yuan worth of food in one meal. She initially thought she could indulge herself and enjoy a delicious meal, savoring various seafood dishes, and then take some leftovers home after the meal. However, just as she was enjoying the food, her date suddenly disappeared. The restaurant staff held her back, and she had no choice but to pay the bill with her credit card before leaving. Afterward, Ms. Yang became angrier and angrier. She contacted a journalist, hoping to expose the scumbag and demand compensation for her physical, financial, and time losses, as well as to recover the 30,000 yuan she had spent on the meal. So, what exactly happened here? Ms. Yang's usual occupation is a print model. Due to her stunning appearance and enviable figure, she often posts her work photos or selfies online. As such, this beauty naturally attracted a lot of attention. There were always many men queuing up to pursue her. She would normally ignore the requests of ordinary people or netizens. One day, she came across a 1995-born rich second-generation man online, which piqued her curiosity. This man constantly pursued her and showcased his wealth and capabilities. Initially, Ms. Yang dismissed him as a joke, thinking that he was just like the others, another man without money. Until one day, when Ms. Yang was bored, she opened his social media profile. To her surprise, she found that he was frequently at high-end venues. He drove luxury cars, wore expensive watches, and lived in a large mansion. This was the perfect image of a successful man. Such a man was exactly what Ms. Yang had been waiting for, someone who was worthy of her. So, Ms. Yang judged that this man must be a successful, wealthy person. She started actively responding to him, and soon, the two began chatting enthusiastically. On one occasion, the man invited Ms. Yang to dinner and told her to pick the place. Upon hearing this, Ms. Yang readily agreed and specifically chose a well-known high-end restaurant in town because she felt that it was a place that matched her identity. When they sat down at the restaurant, Ms. Yang already knew that the man was rich and wasn't worried about money. So, she ordered all the most expensive dishes on the menu.
我也就点了一些时令的菜，像帝王蟹呀、黑虎虾呀、小米辽参啊什么的。然后我看他家菜品还不错，我就又点了3份小米辽参，还有5份燕窝。我就说这些是打包的，带回去呢给我的闺蜜也尝尝。然后呢，我又点了一只帝王蟹，我说这个呀要妥善的打包带回去给我弟弟，因为我弟弟没有吃过吧。
Seeing that the man didn't object, Ms. Yang happily enjoyed her meal, ordering more and more, filling the table with expensive dishes. Then, the man suddenly said that he had a stomachache and needed to go to the restroom. However, to her surprise, the man never returned after going to the restroom. Ms. Yang initially thought that he might be taking a call related to work, but after waiting for over an hour with no sign of him, she called him, only to find that his phone had already been turned off, and he wasn't replying to any messages. Ms. Yang immediately realized that she might have been tricked. She felt that she had given him a chance to show his true character, but he had run away. This was such a shameless act. This man was a total scumbag. She was now left with a bill of 30,000 yuan for the food and drinks, unsure of what to do. In the end, as the restaurant was about to close, Ms. Yang had no choice but to max out her credit card to pay the bill and leave the restaurant. She began to feel lucky that she hadn't ordered that bottle of wine worth 200,000 yuan. Otherwise, she would have had to sell her body to pay for it.
那个罗曼尼康帝那个要20多万一瓶，那个我就没点，因为我觉得我们第一次见面也不要这样子消耗人家嘛。
At this point, Ms. Yang became even more furious. She felt that as an incredibly beautiful woman, getting the chance to meet a man for an arranged date was a huge blessing from heaven. But to her surprise, not only did the man not cherish the opportunity, but he also shamelessly tricked her. Ms. Yang was filled with immense anger. She then contacted the journalist, wanting to expose this scumbag and demand compensation for her physical, financial, and time losses. The journalist roughly understood the situation and then contacted the man. However, when the journalist spoke with him, he presented a completely different account of the events.
因为我感觉被骗了，
为什么感觉被骗了？
因为吃饭开一瓶酒，2万多，还有吃个饭8000多，他有这么消费的吗？
你的意思是他带你到这个特别贵的这个饭店来吃饭，然后让你买单？
是啊，
就是因为这个原因走掉的。
是啊，我感觉被骗了，是啊，我不懂得我咋。
The man explained that he was just an ordinary person. Although he had some savings, it was all earned through hard work. Going out for a meal, even if it cost 1,000 yuan, wasn't a big deal for him. This was the typical cost for most couples on a date. But Ms. Yang had ordered tens of thousands of yuan worth of food, and on top of that, she wanted to pack even more to take home. Clearly, she was treating him as a fool. If he hadn't run away, he would have been the real fool. However, Ms. Yang thought that the dishes she ordered were just ordinary items, and that 30,000 yuan wasn't too much. She often ate with her wealthy friends, and they'd order similar things. Who knew she'd meet a fake rich man who couldn't even afford the bill, and then ran away without paying? How could he still have the nerve to show up for a date? Seeing that the two couldn't communicate, Ms. Yang decided to call the police. However, the police found no evidence that the man had agreed to pay, and with insufficient evidence, they didn't pursue the case. In the end, Ms. Yang had no choice but to accept her bad luck. This incident reveals that many men and women nowadays go on blind dates with the intention of getting something without working for it, either to scam someone into paying for meals or with other hidden agendas. They have completely forgotten the true purpose of blind dating. What do you think of this incident? Feel free to leave a comment and share your opinion. Let's discuss it together.
倒霉啊！昨天
怎么了？
这个我都摘不掉，遇到一个渣男。
Yesterday was truly the worst day ever. I met a scumbag, and I just couldn't take it anymore. You know, I was supposed to meet a guy introduced by a matchmaking agency. His conditions seemed pretty good, he had a car and a house, and he looked pretty decent driving his car. The meeting place was nice too, and at first, he seemed well-dressed, in a suit and everything. His conversation was good, and he appeared to be reliable. Then he suggested going to a mall, and at first, I thought it was a good idea. Shopping at the mall seemed like a nice option. But after walking around for a while, I started feeling something was off. I noticed other couples were shopping and buying things, while we were just walking around empty-handed. He didn't buy me any clothes or anything. After that, he said he'd take me to dinner, and since he was driving an 80,000+ yuan car, I thought, with such a car, he should be able to afford a high-end restaurant, right? When ordering, I didn't order much, I just got a few steaks, lobster, and some common dishes. I also ordered a bottle of wine, but it didn't seem too excessive. However, halfway through the meal, he suddenly told me he had left something in the car and needed to go get it. I didn't mind, so I let him go. But after a while, I tried calling him, and he didn't answer. I messaged him on WeChat, but there was no reply either. I ended up sitting there for half an hour, and as the restaurant was about to close, I finally realized he had just run away. I waited there for so long, and in the end, I had to call my best friend to transfer me some money so I could pay the bill, which came to 8,000 yuan. But honestly, it wasn't that expensive, it was a Western restaurant, with a nice environment and good food. Do you think 8,000 yuan is too much? Whenever I've gone on blind dates before, the other guys would at least bring me a gift, but this one didn't bring me anything. So, what could I do? I couldn't tell my parents about this, if I did, they'd be so disappointed. In the end, I had to repay my best friend. Today, I took the gifts that previous blind date guys had given me to a jewelry store to have them appraised. To my surprise, the store owner informed me that the so-called gold jewelry that the previous guys had given me was all fake. The bracelets and rings were all plated gold, not real gold at all. These men are just unbelievable. They have no sincerity and are nothing but scammers. I really don't know what to say. How did I keep meeting these scumbags over and over again?
违法吗？有这么一个真实的案例。
On a matchmaking dinner, the man ended up paying 20,000 yuan, and did the man skipping out on the bill violate the law? There was a matchmaking incident in Zhejiang, where a man and a woman had planned to meet at a restaurant for a matchmaking dinner. The man, in an effort to show sincerity, had previously agreed to pay for the meal. However, things took an unexpected turn when the woman not only invited her parents but also brought along 23 relatives. During the meal, the woman and her relatives sat in one private room, while the man sat in another room with his parents and the matchmaker. When the bill arrived, the man was stunned. The total was 20,000 yuan. Of this amount, the woman's table accounted for 19,000 yuan, while the man's table only amounted to 1,000 yuan. Faced with such a huge bill, the man was only willing to pay for his own table and refused to cover the costs for the woman and her relatives. At this point, people started to question, does this man's behavior constitute skipping out on the bill, and is it illegal? As a lawyer, I analyzed the situation from a legal perspective. The verbal agreement between the man and the woman, where the man promised to pay for the meal, is valid. However, this commitment only covers the cost of the meal for the man and the woman. The man is not obligated to pay for the meal of the woman's relatives and friends. Therefore, the man's actions do not constitute a legal skipping out on the bill. So, do you support the man's actions?
发现现在男孩子越来越抠了，跟以前男人完全不一样。
Recently, many of my friends have been saying that the difference between men today and those in the past is huge. They are becoming more and more stingy. In the past, men were quite generous, especially during blind dates. If a man liked a woman, he would often treat her to a meal and even be willing to spend a little extra money. But now many men, even if they feel a mutual attraction during a blind date, will expect to split the bill once the meal is over. Some men will even ask to split the cost of a cup of milk tea, leaving the girl to pay for her own. What's worse is that some men will immediately get up and leave if they can't continue a conversation, leaving the woman alone and embarrassed. Actually, situations like these have become quite common around us, but we women are often the last ones to know about it. The job market this year has also become more challenging. Have you noticed that there are more and more female food delivery workers and female couriers on the streets? In the past, these jobs were almost exclusively for men, but now more and more women are joining these hard labor roles. This indicates that the economic pressure is indeed growing, money is harder to earn, and people are becoming more cautious about their spending. Thrift has become the norm. Since making money is not easy, who would waste money freely? If a woman truly likes a man, he will naturally be able to sense it. If a woman is not interested in a man but doesn't outright reject him, instead keeping him on a leash, the man will also notice. In such an economic environment, many men simply don't have the financial means to play the dating game anymore. So if a woman is not sincere with him, the man has no motivation to invest too much. In addition, the changes in the marriage market cannot be ignored. Look at it this way, nowadays, many women's salaries are no longer enough to support their previous high-quality lifestyle, and their consumption is gradually decreasing. So many women are thinking, maybe I should just get married, that way I can solve my financial problems. But when you look back, you will find that more and more men are starting to reject marriage, unwilling to settle down or find a partner. Aside from the economic pressure, another big reason is that many men have been deceived or hurt by women during blind dates. Some girls even invite a whole group of relatives to join the blind date, and when it's over, the man is expected to pay for everyone, sometimes costing thousands or even tens of thousands. Some women even take the man directly to a shopping mall after the meal and ask him to buy this and that without any regard for his financial situation. You might think this is just an isolated case, but actually, such incidents happen frequently in the blind date market. Almost every man has experienced something similar. Some women refuse to go to regular restaurants during blind dates and insist on visiting trendy restaurants for photos, or staying at high-end hotels. The costs easily add up to several thousand or even tens of thousands of yuan. Just imagine, living with such a woman would put enormous financial pressure on a man. If a man encounters this kind of situation, he would not hesitate to run away. Do you think a man can find happiness living with a materialistic woman like this? She is only suitable for rich men, relying on their wealth to maintain her lifestyle. But the problem is, how many wealthy men are willing to take care of her?
Many women are complaining online these days, saying that men have become increasingly stingy when it comes to blind dates. Actually, I've always believed that men weren't like this from the beginning. They're not born stingy, and we can't entirely blame them for it. Because during blind dates, it's almost a norm for men to spend money on women. You see, When a man invites a woman to dinner for the first time, he will definitely choose a decent restaurant, right? And some men might even bring a small gift, like a token of appreciation or a bouquet of flowers, to show their sincerity. Later, during the course of their interactions, the man might treat the woman to a drink or take her to a movie. Anyway, after going through this entire process, the cost is certainly not small. Even if it's not 1,000 yuan, it's at least 800 yuan, and some might even spend more. But these blind date partners might have only met the man 2 or 3 times, or sometimes they've only met once with no follow-up at all. In any case, nothing has developed further. After going through many blind dates like this, these men must feel a bit weary. They spend so much money each time, yet it often doesn't lead to any substantial progress, which inevitably makes them wonder, why am I spending all this money? If this money were spent on myself, I could do many things that would make me feel more comfortable. For example, he could use this money to fill up his car with 2 tanks of gas and go on a road trip to relax, or upgrade his computer hardware to improve his quality of life. He could also use the money to gather with friends for a meal and enjoy some of his favorite foods, or even buy a few pairs of sneakers or new clothes he's been eyeing. These things would feel much more satisfying than spending money on a blind date. Nowadays, men have become smarter, and with the current economic situation, money is harder to earn, and everyone's life isn't easy. Now, if you were in their shoes, how much would you be willing to spend on a woman during a blind date? Feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comment section. Let's discuss this topic together. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us, and we will continue to bring you better content. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.